As of 2026, there are two types of AI interactions. The one you're most likely familiar with is the conversational AI interaction, where you go to ChatGPT or you go to Claude, in my case that'll be Claude, and then you simply ask a question and you get back an answer. And for most of us, this is the most common type of interaction with AI, and you'll typically use that for crafting an email or asking questions about a specific topic. Pretty much conversational AI is kind of the replacement of using Google. But where the real productivity gain comes from is when you move from conversational AI to agentic AI. Agentic conversation are, on the other hand, conversations where you've provided tools to your AI. And with those tools, your AI can start to do work on your behalf. And the most common flavor of agentic conversation at the moment is referred as vibe coding. When you hear people in the news saying I've vibe coded something, that just means that they've used a different AI system that your normal ChatGPT or Claude Code, where that system had access to tools to allow them to modify files, read files, and even access other systems. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to use agentic AI, and we'll start with a simple example where everything seems good and where simple conversation like the one you're doing right now are just fine. And when you're reaching the tipping point where more friction starts to appear and when it's a good idea to move to agentic workflows. So to do that, I'm going to simply take an example of a spreadsheet that you need to analyze and how you normally analyze it using your conversational AI, and then we'll make the example more complicated. In my case, I have here a Star Wars database. The link will be in the video below. I'm going to simply drag and drop it in Claude. I'm using Claude here, but this would also work in ChatGPT. And I'm going to simply ask a question about Jar Jar Binks. And we're going to start to collect information with Jar Jar Binks so we can start to write a blog post about Jar Jar Binks. That's the use case. Analyze this Star Wars dataset and tell me in how many Star Wars movies Jar Jar Binks make an appearance. Great, so now we have our answer. We can see Jar Jar Binks appears in 3 movies in the Star Wars galaxy. Now we might be interested in asking another question about how popular Jar Jar Binks is with the Star Wars audience. Based on this data set, are there any information about how well perceived Jar Jar Binks is with its audience? And here we go. It looks like, in general, the sentiment is quite unfavorable for Jar Jar Binks. And with all those data, maybe at this time we want to take a break and write our blog post. With all the information we've gathered so far, can you please write a small blog post about Jar Jar Binks? Great, so now I have my article and I can copy it, and I'm going to simply paste that into my notepad. So here I have my notepad and I could use that to write my article for my blog post. That being said, I may realize that I forgot to ask a question that interests me about Jar Jar Binks, and at this stage I go back to my history and I ask another question. For example, regarding the sentiment for Jar Jar Binks, is it possible to run a different analysis where the sentiment is grouped by age group? And I'm interested to understand if the sentiment depends on the age group. And if yes, please show me the statistics. All right, so now we have a new report that does a lot of statistics about how to reason about Jar Jar Binks based on the age group. and we can see that there are different reaction to how Jar Jar Binks is being perceived depending on the age group. So this could be like a very interesting fact to include in my blog post. So now I'm gonna say, please update my original blog post and include the key findings and key insights of this report into the original one, and input the final result in this chat. That's it. Now I have a new blog post, and it includes the age factor in it, and I can now copy it. I go back to my notepad, and I can simply refresh that. But notice the pattern here, where you're doing back and forth between your notepad, where you're taking notes, and your chat app, where you're asking questions back and forth, and then asking to update the blog post. And imagine that that could be obviously way more complicated, where you could add more data sources. You could just ask to refine your blog post in many different ways, and at the end you're going back and forth like that. Now you can see the friction here, where the more conversation you have, the more tools you need, the more friction there's going to be between your tools and your chatbot. So Claude Desktop recently introduced Cowork, and Cowork is the first foray of Claude Desktop into agentic behavior. And with Claude Cowork, what happens is that you'll first start to give access to a folder. So for example, here I'm going to choose the folder where my Star Wars database was, or my Star Wars Excel file was. So I'm going to select it. And now with Claude Cowork, Claude has access to different tools to modify directly files on your desktop. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask the same question. Find the Star Wars database in this folder and analyze it so that you can tell me in how many movies we can see Jar Jar Binks. Notice that here I didn't have to explicitly drag and drop the CSV file in Claude. I simply asked it, hey, find that database. And it has the tools to search for files based on my description and automatically load that into its memory and start analyzing it. I'm going to carry on and ask the same question as before, which is, based on the data set, can you tell me if Jar Jar Binks is seen favorably or unfavorably by the audience? So at this stage, you may ask yourself, well, it's not very different from the previous example where it looks like a normal conversational behavior between you and the AI. But now this is where things change. Look inside my folder and notice that we only have my original note and my original data set here. So now I'm going to ask Claude to create the blog post insights. Use those insights to create a small blog post in this root folder. And now if we go here, at some point we're going to see a new file being created for us. And here it is. And I can open it. And here's the blog post. Now, what I can do now is to keep going and say, I forgot to mention that I'd like to have a deeper analysis on how Jar Jar Binks is being perceived based on the age group. Can you please run this analysis? And once you have the analysis, please update the blog post you've just created. Now notice that it's going to run the analysis. My file is currently 2 kilobytes, and at some point we're going to see its size increase because Claude Code will just follow my command and integrate the new insights inside the original blog post. And here we go. Now the file is 5 kilobytes. And if I open it, then I can see the new insights about the age group. So now you can see that with agentic conversation, now that your AI has access to different tools, you can really boost your productivity because you don't have those frictions anymore where you have to control the files. You can simply ask Claude to create them for you, to analyze them for you, to delete or update them for you. And obviously something that I do all the time as an engineer is that I create a lot of web pages, documentations, and other artifacts like this. So to close this video, here I'm going to ask Claude to create a very simple HTML web page with infographics to really make the blog post stand out with visuals. And this is as simple as this. Can you please convert this blog post into a very well designed HTML page with charts and visual to really enrich my blog post? Okay, and that's it. So it created a new HTML page. If I double click on it, then I have this web page, and it contains the original article with some stats. And that's it. So obviously you can imagine all the other things you can do with this system. You can connect your Gmail to it. You can ask it to deploy it, to publish that on a server, so you can serve that web page to the rest of the world. You can do many, many different things besides just asking to write email to your boss. So I hope that this video was useful for you to understand the difference between conversational AI and agentic AI, and when you should start to think about using agentic AI to boost your productivity. If you like this video and you think the content was useful, please subscribe. If you have any topic you'd like me to cover in explaining how to be more productive with AI, please drop a comment in the section below, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.